Welcome to Gardening in Richmond, Vermont. My name is Mary Houle, and this is my mosquito protection. I'll show you a couple of other reasons you need to have something like this. The sun, for example, I've got this nice wide visor. This netting I attach to the hat. You just can't buy something like this, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a wide brim hat. I don't remember where I got it, but I just stitched the netting on the outside. And when you wear this and tuck it into your shirt, the mosquitoes tend not to go after you. They'll still kind of buzz the netting, but you're relatively free of them for the length of time you have that on. There's a saying, it's an old adage, and it's a very wise one. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We've all heard that. So when you're working in the garden, whether you think you need it or not, take a few minutes and get yourself a pair of safety glasses. If you don't have the official safety glasses, wear something that will give you some eye protection. If you're going to be using just standard tools, it's up to you whether you want to use that or not. But if I'm pruning or if I'm cutting back raspberries, eye protection is necessary. You poke yourself in the eye a number of times and you go, should have had the glasses. So safety glasses are very important. Footwear, here we go. This is a really nice boot. I don't know the manufacturer. I think it says Boggs. But this is an excellent protection for your feet for going through thorns. It's also a water protection for about 6 inches. Using this in the garden, you won't regret it. You will, however, regret if you go in with sneakers or if you go in with footwear that is not waterproof. So footwear is very important. It has a good thorn protection, I've found, because these gloves don't. So the headgear for mosquito protection and sunburn protection is very important. Gloves. Now these are all my working gloves. So you can get them in all manner of weights. Now the rubber gloves I use for early transplants, and I'll do it from a cutting into a 4-inch pot. So I'll use these. That's if I don't want to get my hands dirty. I usually get my hands dirty. This is a lightweight glove. I'll use this in the garden for pulling weeds. And again, it's just a lightweight glove. Does a fairly good job. Then I have the medium weight gloves. And I'd use this if I was using a rake or if I was using a shovel in the garden. So this is a working weight glove. So that's midweight. And then this is what I consider heavyweight. Now if I'm using a fork in the garden, a spading shovel, or a long shovel, this is one of the things I'd use. Or if I was doing heavy duty work with a rake or a potato hook, which is also called a cultivator. Or if I was using the rototiller, I would use this. Not so much that I'm afraid of getting dirt on me, but this allows a little bit of vibration protection. Not a lot, but you certainly won't regret it. Clippers and pruners. Now, everybody knows what clippers and pruners look like, but I tend to put a little flag on everything that I have in the garden. For instance, if I drop that, the green might blend in, but the pink or the orange would stand out. It's like, oh, I've lost my pruners. So you can go back and hopefully find them. If you don't find them this season, you'll find them next year when you harrow and till. Now this is, I guess this is called a box cutter. I also use a sheetrock knife. I use this for cutting the bottom off milk jugs to use for protection over frost plants. If you don't want the frost to get at the plants, cut the bottom off, of course, jam that into the soil, and you have a mild frost protection. But that's why that's handy. But the thing you do all the time is make sure that blade is retracted. Don't shove it in your pocket with the blade out, because you will know about it later. So clippers and pruners, retract those blades and mark your tools. Now, it's also important that when you mark your tools, you have a color. And in the springtime, this is not a color you would typically see in the garden. You might see it mid-season, this bright, bright yellow, or hot pink, something like that. And I use these specifically with wood in the garden. I try not to use metal because inevitably, I'll tell you, I forget that there's metal there, and I'll go through with a mower, and I'll hear when I've gone through that. So use something that's biodegradable, and that's why I use the little wooden skewers. Chopsticks work perfectly fine, but what you do is you make a hole in this, and you might say, okay, this is going to be cherry tomatoes. So you make a hole, and then you feed the skewer or the wooden stake through, and then, come on now, there you go. And you just plop that in the soil. You can just lie it on the soil too, but don't leave it without something to weight it down. You could put a rock on it. But in magic marker, something that is not water soluble, identify what it is that you're marking. And the reason, again, you use wooden paper is so when you go through with a rototiller or a mower, you're not throwing shards of metal everywhere. And especially if it's biodegradable, you certainly won't regret that. Marking your tools, fluorescent tape is handy. I have a roll of it. Actually, I have a couple of colors of it in my truck. And when you're using, retract that blade. When you're using tools in the garden that have tines, like a rake, any hand tools with tines, that's like a fork. A potato fork, which is a cultivator, it's a short rake essentially. Always, when you put them down with tines down. Inevitably, you're going to turn around and go, oh, I should have done this. Well, if you put them tines down, you won't have to worry about puncturing your nice boots because thorns will not get through them, but those tines will. So garden markers, again, best of wood and paper. The other thing that I do is when I'm walking around the garden, this of course you'll recognize as a litter container, but if I'm carrying a bunch of tools, this is very handy for all manner of things. So you can carry this, and also when you set it down, it's tall enough and of distinct difference from everything else that you go, oh, there's my tools. And I have a number of these. I use some for my drill bits, so I'll write drill bits or I'll write screws and nails on them, so they're very handy. And you can probably get a full season, but then you can recycle them after. The other thing that I use in my garden is a night light. Now this is a solar power. I don't do night gardening, but I know when there's something been in the garden, because as I sit in the evening when of course the evenings are getting darker now, dark at 8 o'clock, I can see when something's been walking in the garden, which I don't run right out, but it's kind of nice to know what, I can check in the morning what's been there. And sometimes this little solar light is enough to cause whatever it is in the garden to move on. That's it for tools and more. Happy gardening.